Dad perfect events. On Father's Day, my daughter texted, "Forget about our help when you're older. We have our own lives." I stayed calm, called my lawyer, and removed her from my $5 and $2 million inheritance. That same evening, she showed up at my door. No one was prepared for what happened next. My name is Benjamin Hayes. I'm 58 years old and I live in Charleston, South Carolina. For 35 years, I built my restaurant business from nothing. 3 successful seafood establishments that became local landmarks. Hayes Catch started as a single storefront on King Street, and through sweat, long nights, and genuine passion for Southern coastal cuisine, it grew into something I was proud of. I believed my legacy would pass to my daughter, Ashley. I was wrong about that too. Ashley wasn't always the person she became. I remember her at 8 years old, standing on a stool in my first restaurant's kitchen, watching me prepare she crab soup. Her eyes lit up with curiosity, asking questions about every ingredient. She'd taste the broth and suggest we needed more seasoning. Sometimes she was right. That girl disappeared somewhere along the way. The change accelerated 4 years ago when she married Ryan Mitchell. Ryan came from money, or at least he acted like he did. Expensive suits, firm handshake, investment consultant credentials. He swept Ashley off her feet with talk of portfolio diversification and wealth management. I should have paid more attention to the fact that Ryan's own investments kept failing. The first year of their marriage, Ashley asked to borrow $18,000 for furniture. I transferred it the same day. She promised to pay it back next month when Ryan's commission came through. That was the first lie, though I didn't recognize it then. The requests became more frequent. $25,000 for a car repair on the BMW I'd bought Ashley as a wedding gift. $35,000 to help Ryan through a rough quarter. $22,000 for a European vacation to clear their heads and reconnect. Each time the same promise, "We'll pay you back, Dad. Just need a few months." They never paid back a single dollar. I bought them a house on James Island, $70,000. Put the down payment in myself, $156,000, because Ryan said his capital was tied up in long-term investments. Ashley cried with happiness when they got the keys, hugging me tight. "You're the best father anyone could ask for," she said. I wanted to believe her. The phone calls became less frequent. Sunday dinners, once sacred in our family, dwindled to monthly obligations, then quarterly inconveniences. When they did visit, Ashley's eyes glazed over when I talked about the restaurants. She'd repeat Ryan's phrases about diversifying beyond food service and building real wealth through smart investments. Once I overheard Ryan in my bathroom talking to someone. "Yeah, I'm at the old man's place. No, just killing time until we can leave without being rude. He's loaded though, sitting on millions in real estate and business equity. Ashley doesn't realize how much we could access if we played this right. The old man. That's what I'd become to him. And Ashley was his ticket to my money." 3 days before Father's Day, I sat in my office above the King Street restaurant. My doctor had mentioned some concerns about my health during my last checkup. Nothing serious, but it made me think about the future, about what happens when you need help, about who shows up when the chips are down. I sent Ashley a text at 1:30 in the afternoon. "Honey, can we talk soon about the future? I'm having some health concerns and want to discuss what support might look like as I get older. Love you." I watched the dots appear and disappear several times. Finally, at 3:15, her response came through. "Dad, be realistic. I have my own family, my own life, my own career. Ryan says we can't take responsibility for you. Forget about our help when you're older. Hire a caregiver. We have our own lives." I read it 5 times. Those weren't Ashley's words. That was Ryan talking through her phone. My daughter, who used to cry when she accidentally stepped on ants, telling me to hire strangers because she had her own life. 35 years of building something from nothing. Countless early mornings and late nights. Paying for her private school education, $45,000. Her college tuition at College of Charleston, $98,000. Her wedding, $85,000 for a single day where Ryan's family looked down their noses at my quaint little seafood restaurants, and this was my return on investment. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out a folder I'd been maintaining. Call it a father's intuition or a businessman's instinct. Bank transfer records, copies of checks, text messages where Ashley promised repayment, emails from Ryan outlining his temporary cash flow issues. I started adding it up. The figure was shocking. Then I double-checked it, triple-checked it, $847,000. That's how much I'd given my daughter and her husband over 4 years. Not lent, given, because none of it ever came back. I sat there as the afternoon light faded, watching the harbor through my window. Below me, the dinner rush was starting. My head chef, Nathan Brooks, was running the kitchen. He'd been with me for 12 years, loyal and hardworking. The servers knew every regular customer by name. This was my real family, I realized. The people who showed up every day, who cared about what we'd built together. My daughter had become Ryan's mouthpiece, and Ryan had shown me exactly where I ranked in their plans, somewhere below inconvenient and above useful ATM. The hurt stopped, something cold and clear settled in my chest. Not quite anger, more like crystallized disappointment, but this wasn't really about Ashley. This was about Ryan, the puppet master pulling her strings, turning my daughter against everything we'd built together. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Jordan Pierce, an estate attorney I'd met at a Chamber of Commerce event last year. It was time to have a serious conversation. That evening, I stayed late at the restaurant, long after the last customers left. I kept thinking about the little girl on the stool, tasting soup and asking questions. She was still in there somewhere. Ryan had just convinced her that I wasn't worth her time anymore. The next morning, I called Jordan Pierce's office at 9 sharp. His secretary put me through immediately. "Mr. Hayes, good to hear from you. What can I do for you? I need to change my will, Jordan. How quickly can we do that?" He suggested 10 at his office on Meeting Street. I arrived with my folder of documents and a printout of Ashley's message. Jordan read the message slowly, his expression neutral. Then he reviewed my financial records. 45 minutes later, he looked up. "Mr. Hayes, I can redraft your will in 3 days, but I have to warn you, this will cause a family storm." I felt that cold clarity again. My son-in-law already caused the storm when he sent that message through my daughter's phone. Jordan raised an eyebrow. "You think he wrote it? I know my daughter?" "Those aren't her words, that's Ryan talking. I showed him more text messages. Look at how Ashley used to write to me 2 years ago versus now. Different vocabulary, different tone. He's been coaching her responses. My current will left Ashley 65% of the restaurant business and my house on Sullivan's Island. The property alone was worth $2.8 million. Combined with her share of the business, she stood to inherit about $522 million. The remaining 35% was designated for a culinary education fund I'd planned to establish. I want to change everything. I told Jordan, 80% of the business and the house goes to the foundation. Ashley gets $50,000, enough that she can't claim she was completely disinherited, but not a penny more. And I want ironclad language ensuring Ryan can never access any of it, even through community property laws. Jordan nodded slowly. Smart. That makes it much harder to contest, and the community property exclusion is essential with his financial background. The next day, I met with Nicole Carter, a financial consultant who specialized in charitable foundations. She walked me through the structure of what would become the Hayes Culinary Foundation. Scholarships for young people from South Carolina who wanted careers in the culinary arts. People who had the passion Ashley had lost, or more accurately, that Ryan had convinced her was worthless. The foundation provides tax advantages, Nicole explained, but more importantly, it creates a permanent structure. Even if someone challenges your personal estate, the foundation assets remain protected and dedicated to your chosen purpose. Father's Day arrived. At 8:00 in the morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Ashley, celebrating with Ryan's family today. Have a good day. No invitation, no phone call, not even Happy Father's Day. Dad, just a brief notification that I wasn't part of their plans. I spent Father's Day at the King Street restaurant with my staff. We'd opened for a few hours to serve a community dinner, something we'd done for 12 years. Nathan had outdone himself with the menu. The dining room filled with people who actually wanted to be there. As I watched families laugh together, strangers sharing tables and stories, I realized these people understood something Ryan had stolen from Ashley. The value of showing up, the importance of gratitude, the simple decency of saying thank you instead of what's next. Ruth Martinez, an elderly woman who came every year, squeezed my hand as she left. "God bless you, Mr. Hayes. You have a good heart. Sometimes a good heart gets broken when it's taken for granted," I replied. The day after Father's Day, I returned to Jordan's office. He had the new will ready. I read through every page carefully. It was all there. The foundation, the scholarships, the minimal bequest to Ashley, and the explicit exclusion of any spousal claims. "Are you certain about this?" Jordan asked. I thought about that message one more time, but more than that, I thought about Ryan's voice in my bathroom, calculating how much he could access through Ashley. "I'm certain." At 2:30, with 2 witnesses and a notary present, I signed the new will. My hand didn't shake at all. Ashley didn't know it yet, but that Father's Day text had cost her $522 million, and Ryan, the real architect of this betrayal, would get exactly what he deserved. Nothing. But changing a will wasn't enough. Ryan was smart, manipulative. If he discovered what I'd done, he'd coach Ashley through a legal challenge, claim I'd lost my mental faculties, so I needed documentation. The following Monday, I drove to Charleston Medical Center for comprehensive testing, cognitive evaluation, neurological exam, the works. 3 different doctors confirmed what I already knew. My mind was perfectly sharp. Mr. Hayes, Dr. Tyler Walsh, the neurologist, said, "Your cognitive function is exceptional for any age. Memory, reasoning, executive function, all well above average. Frankly, I wish half my 50-year-old patients scored this well. I'd like that in writing," I told him. Notarized if possible. He understood immediately. Family disputes can get ugly. I'll have my office prepare comprehensive documentation. I also hired Margaret Collins, a private investigator who specialized in financial fraud, not just to track spending, but to understand Ryan's real business dealings. Her office was in a converted warehouse downtown, 3rd floor, no-nonsense space with filing cabinets and a desk that had seen better decades. Margaret Collins herself was sharp-eyed, maybe 45, with the tired competence of someone who'd seen every kind of lie humans tell themselves. "Financial investigation," she said, after I'd explained what I needed. "Tracking spending patterns, lifestyle analysis, understanding manipulation tactics. This'll run $3,500 a month plus expenses. Could take 6 to 8 weeks for a thorough workup. Money isn't the issue, accuracy is." She almost smiled. "Then we'll get along fine." Her preliminary report arrived 2 weeks later. Ryan wasn't just incompetent with money, he was actively gambling with it. $19,500 of my money spent in 6 months. Designer furniture, luxury trips to Miami and New York, expensive jewelry, restaurant bills that cost more than my line cooks made in a month. Meanwhile, their combined official income was $75,000. Ashley worked part-time at a marketing firm, $32,000. Ryan's investment consulting brought in $43,000, down from previous years because his client base kept shrinking. Mr. Hayes, Margaret Collins said when she delivered her full findings, "Your son-in-law has been using your daughter as a front for what amounts to money laundering. He takes your gifts, funnels them through cryptocurrency speculation and penny stocks, then uses the losses as tax write-offs while maintaining their luxury lifestyle through continued gifts from you." The math was simple and damning. They were living entirely on my money while telling me they were struggling, and Ryan was systematically destroying every dollar I gave them through reckless speculation. But the most disturbing discovery came next. 3 months ago, Ryan tried to take out a home equity loan on the house you bought them. The bank rejected it because your name is on the title as co-owner. He attempted to forge your signature on the application. My blood ran cold. "Do you have proof?" She slid a document across my desk, bank security footage, and the application with the forged signature. "That's federal fraud, Mr. Hayes. He tried to steal $300,000 using your house as collateral." I stared at the evidence. This wasn't just about manipulation anymore. Ryan had tried to commit actual fraud against me using my daughter's name and my property, and Ashley had no idea what her husband was doing behind her back. "There's more," Margaret Collins continued. "I've been monitoring their communications. Your son-in-law has been coaching your daughter's responses to you for over 2 years. He writes out her text messages, rehearses phone conversations with her, even practices emotional responses for family visits." She showed me printed screenshots. Ryan's messages to Ashley: "Remember, don't sound too eager about the restaurant business. Tell him you're focused on building your own career. And if he brings up money again, use the script I wrote about being independent." Another message: "The old man is getting suspicious. Time for the big play. Send him exactly this text when he mentions needing help." Attached was a draft of the Father's Day message, word for word, that Ashley had eventually sent me. My daughter hadn't betrayed me. She'd been systematically brainwashed by a financial predator who saw her as his golden ticket to my life's work. 3 months after Father's Day, Ashley showed up at the restaurant during lunch rush. I was in my office when Nathan knocked. "Boss, your daughter's here." I found her in the dining room, but something was different. The expensive designer clothes were still there, but she looked tired, stressed. She hugged me, but it felt forced, like she was going through motions Ryan had rehearsed with her. "Dad, I wanted to personally invite you to Thanksgiving dinner. I know we haven't been around much, but it's the holidays, right?" She was wearing a new diamond bracelet. I recognized the style from a jewelry store window I'd passed last week, $12,000 minimum, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "That's beautiful," I said, nodding at the bracelet. Ashley's practiced response came automatically. "Ryan gave it to me for our anniversary. He said I deserved something special," but her voice lacked conviction, like she was reciting lines she didn't quite believe. "Business must be going well for him. Oh, you know Ryan, he always has something in the works." The words came out flat, rehearsed. After she left, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about protecting my legacy anymore. This was about saving my daughter from a con artist who was destroying her life piece by piece. Thanksgiving came and went. Ashley invited me, but the dinner was exactly what I expected. Perfect house, expensive food, and Ryan orchestrating every conversation like a puppet master. But now I could see the strings. Every time Ashley started to speak naturally, Ryan would interrupt or redirect. When she mentioned missing our old Sunday dinners, he quickly changed the subject to building their future together. When I asked about her part-time job, Ryan answered for her, explaining why traditional employment was beneath her potential. During dessert, Ryan made his move. "Benjamin, I wanted to run something by you. There's this incredible opportunity in Myrtle Beach, new resort development, ground floor investment. The returns are projected at 400% over 18 months. Ashley jumped in right on cue, but her words sounded rehearsed. "Dad, Ryan's done so much research. It's a chance for all of us to really secure our future. And when you get older and need care, we'd have the resources to help." I watched my daughter's face as she spoke. She looked exhausted, like someone who'd been practicing lines for a play she didn't want to be in. "Send me the details," I said. "I'll have my advisor take a look." 2 weeks later, Nicole Carter called me back. "Mr. Hayes, that Myrtle Beach project is a known scam. The FBI opened an investigation 2 months ago. Several investors have already lost their life savings, and the principals behind it are facing federal fraud charges." The final piece clicked into place. Ryan wasn't just manipulating Ashley for money. He was actively trying to drag me into a criminal conspiracy, knowing elderly investors were the primary targets. I met with Jordan Pierce again in December. "We need to do better than just a will," I told him. "If Ryan discovers the changes, he'll coach Ashley through a legal challenge, claim undue influence, maybe even try to have me declared incompetent. Have you considered a trust?" He explained how it would work. Instead of waiting until I died, we'd transfer ownership of my assets into a trust structure. I'd remain the trustee with complete control, but legally, the assets would belong to the trust. When I died, they'd pass according to trust documents, not through probate. "Which means there's no will for Ryan to contest," Jordan said. "The assets are already transferred, much harder to challenge, and nearly impossible to claim spousal community property rights." By mid-January, the Hayes Culinary Foundation Trust existed as a legal entity. 80% of my restaurant business now belonged to the foundation. I remained managing trustee with full operational control, but after my death, it would fund scholarships for young culinary students. Ryan would never be able to touch it. But more importantly, I'd found a way to ensure my life's work would help young people who actually cared about the craft, not financial predators looking for easy money. The paperwork was dense and technical, but the core of it was simple. I'd just made it nearly impossible for Ryan to steal what I'd spent 35 years building. 3 weeks later, Ashley called. Her voice was different. Shaky, uncertain. "Dad, we need to talk. I'll be there at 600. She arrived alone, and for the first time in years, she looked like my daughter instead of Ryan's wife. Her eyes were red from crying, and she clutched a manila folder in her hands. "Dad," she said, sitting across from me, "I found something in Ryan's office. Documents about offshore accounts, bankruptcy filings, and..." She opened the folder with trembling hands. "Plans to have you declared mentally incompetent." I looked at the papers she'd discovered. Legal strategies for challenging elderly parents' financial decisions. Draft petitions claiming I was suffering from dementia. A timeline for filing bankruptcy immediately after gaining control of my assets. "Ashley," I said gently, "how long has he been controlling what you say to me?" She broke down completely. 2 years, maybe longer. "He said you were getting old and needed protection from making bad decisions. He convinced me that agreeing with him was protecting you. Every text, every phone call, every visit, he coached me through all of it. The Father's Day message, he wrote it, made me send it word for word. I didn't want to, Dad. I cried for hours afterward, but he said it was necessary to establish boundaries before you did something financially irresponsible." She looked up at me with tears streaming down her face. "I lost myself somewhere along the way. I stopped being your daughter and became his puppet. I moved to sit beside her, putting my arm around her shoulders like I used to when she was little. You're still my daughter, Ashley. You've just been manipulated by someone who's very good at it. What he did to me, Dad, it's not just about money. He isolated me from friends, made me doubt my own thoughts, convinced me that his opinions were the only ones that mattered. I didn't even realize it was happening until I found those papers. Where is he now? Charleston County Detention Center. The FBI arrested him this morning for the Myrtle Beach fraud. They had recordings of him recruiting other investors after the investigation started." She wiped her eyes. "They want to talk to you too, about the forged signature on the loan application." I felt a cold satisfaction. Justice was working exactly as it should. The next 6 months transformed everything. Ryan's legal troubles multiplied like compound interest. Federal fraud charges for the Myrtle Beach scheme carried 18 months in prison. The forged signature on my house loan added another federal charge. The IRS opened an investigation for unreported gift income, wanting $95,000 in back taxes and penalties. But the most satisfying consequence came from Charleston's tight-knit business community. Word spread quickly about his attempted fraud. Every connection he'd cultivated, every potential client he'd schmoozed at Chamber of Commerce events, every golf buddy he'd impressed with his financial expertise, they all learned the truth. In a city where reputation is everything, Ryan Mitchell became a cautionary tale. Ashley, meanwhile, started working at the King Street restaurant every Monday and Wednesday. At first, she just helped with inventory and vendor relations, simple tasks that let her ease back into the business world. But gradually, I watched my real daughter emerge from years of manipulation. "Dad," she said one afternoon while we counted seafood deliveries, "I forgot how much I loved this place. The smell of the kitchen, the energy during dinner rush, the way regular customers become like family." Her divorce from Ryan finalized in April. She sold the James Island house to help cover his legal debts and tax liabilities, moving into a modest apartment downtown. For the first time in years, she seemed genuinely happy. In May, I finally told Ashley about the trust. We were sitting in my office after the dinner rush, reviewing the day's receipts like we used to when she was in college. "Ashley," I said, "there's something I need to tell you about my will." She tensed immediately. "Dad, I don't expect anything. After what I put you through, you didn't put me through anything. Ryan did." I pulled out the trust documents. In January, I transferred 80% of the restaurant business into the Hayes Culinary Foundation Trust. It funds scholarships for young people who want to learn culinary arts. She read through the papers slowly, so I inherit $50,000 instead of millions. That's fair. "The money isn't the point anymore, Ashley. I want to offer you something more valuable than an inheritance." She looked up, confused. "I want to offer you the chance to run these restaurants with me, not as an heir waiting for me to die, but as a partner helping me build something that matters." 6 weeks later, we held the first Hayes Culinary Foundation scholarship ceremony. 15 young people from across South Carolina, each receiving $25,000 to pursue their culinary dreams. I stood at the podium, looking out at faces I'd known for decades and faces I'd never seen before. 40 years ago, I started with a single restaurant and a dream that food could build community. I began. Today, the Hayes Culinary Foundation will award these scholarships annually to students pursuing careers in the culinary arts. After the ceremony, Ashley and I sat at our usual corner table, the same spot where I'd made the decision to change my will 10 months ago. "Dad," she said, "working here these past months has given me back something I thought I'd lost forever." "What's that?" "Myself, the person I was before I let someone else define me." She looked around the restaurant, this place, this work. "It's who I really am." That Father's Day text had indeed cost Ashley $520 million in inheritance. But it had given both of us something worth far more. The knowledge that real family shows up when it matters, that trust can be rebuilt stronger than before, and that the best revenge against someone who tries to steal your life's work is making sure it goes to people who will honor it. Justice, it turns out, tastes best when it's seasoned with redemption. Sometimes the people who hurt us most aren't enemies. They're predators wearing the mask of family, and the greatest act of love is protecting those we care about from becoming their next victims. True wealth isn't measured in dollars inherited, but in values preserved, and sometimes cutting off the money is the only way to save the soul of what you've built.